Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. This is Fishing Vlog number 71, and I wanted to start off today with this clip, not just because of the angels and the box filter in here, but because of what you see in the background. That is Aaron's 3D printed filter, and as you can see, it's floating. Now, it was in another aquarium, I had it running, and I noticed it was starting to acquire a positive buoyancy. So I took it out of there, put another filter on that tank, and I put it in here until I had time to try and figure out what was going on. And as you're going to see here in a second, there's nothing wrong with its integrity. It's nice and solid still. But as I back flush this here, this is my water return I use for filling up tanks, it had accumulated a fair amount of mulm. Now, normally I would do this in a sink or a bucket or whatever, but I wanted to see how much was in there and give it a good flush and, of course, record it. So I put it in here and used that to flush it out really thoroughly. And as you can see now, it sits nicely on the bottom. And don't worry about the mulm. It was a nice, well-aerated filter, so the mulm is perfectly harmless. And I have a lot of filtration on this tank. And in a matter of about an hour, this is what it looked like again. And you can see the filter sitting there perfectly fine. I'm going to put it back on another aquarium, Aaron, and yeah, it's a very lovely filter. The only way to clean it, of course, is to back flush it like that. I don't know if it's going to really affect its ability to filter, but we'll put it on an aquarium. We'll see how that all goes. So while I was in a mood to clean, I decided to pull this high humidity planter tray out. This is the second one ever that I made, and this is where the female boiler eye was having her fry, and she was making quite a mess in there, so I decided to clean it all out. I flushed this out, trimmed a lot of the Java fern off, as you can see, and then I'm going to put it all back together. I'm using that as a guppy breeding colony, so I'm going to set up a bunch of guppies in there, and I wanted to clean it out. And the other thing I wanted to do, because it was the old style, it had the egg crate, and I wanted to switch it over to the acrylic, get rid of the screen and the egg crate, and this will be much more solid this way. And doesn't really make much of a difference other than that, except it, of course, is much more difficult to knock aside. So here it's all set up again and ready to go. As you can see, I drained the water down really low, and there are plecos in here. Now, normally, if you were to fill this much fresh water back up into an aquarium, even if it was dechlorinated, is really hard on the fish. What I do, because of the system I have, is I do partial water changes on 2 or 3 aquariums. So I just turn these down like this. And then instead of having the hose go to the drain, I disconnect that, and I put a bucket underneath there. And then I use this nice clear aquarium water, which is nicely aged and doing everything it needs to do. I use that to mostly fill up the aquarium, and then I top up the last little bit with fresh water. So it gets a water change, and it has good, healthy water. So I can just leave the plecos in there, which is really nice. And the other thing nice about it is I can add the guppies into this in a day or two, just after this settles down. It was actually settled down a couple hours later, and I meant to actually record that and show it to you, but it doesn't really matter. It's pretty much the same as the big 7-foot tank. It clears up quickly. And then, of course, I just like to let it run a little longer just to be on the safe side, so I don't have to, worry about the guppies that are going to go in here. Now, the baby fry from those guppies are doing really well. We'll get to those in a second. I wanted to show you a clip of this first. These are the OB zebras, and they're getting to the point where they're really starting to get some nice color, which means they also have to come out of here. This is only a 15-gallon tank, and they're over an inch now, so I need to put them in something larger, and I'm going to have to figure out what that is. The only tank I have, I think, that's capable of holding them is going to be where the Carbensis are currently, so some shuffling is going to happen here for sure. I really like these guys. They're nice and colorful, and I definitely want them to grow up. Now, I'm finally getting some really nice success with these cultures. So you can see in here, there's tons of everything in there. But the most important things are Daphnia and seed shrimp and cyclopses. Now I've got a nice system going. I have subdivided the one that was doing the best. This is the one I poured into, and I'm going to keep doing that until I have quite a few of these. So what I do is I take the hay and I put Paramecia in here. This one you can't really see too well, but the next one you'll see the little spots of the Paramecia. And then I use that water to feed into those other cultures. So if you look closely near the top, you're going to see the little specks there. And that those are actually really quite large Paramecia, and that is what they are all feeding on. So they're doing really well. It's a nice cycle, and I'm going to hopefully get a whole big tank of these going as well. But small steps, we'll get there. So as I mentioned, these are the Guppies. They're a week old now. They're doing very well, and I suspect there's going to be many more batches going in here shortly, and hopefully I'll get a nice large colony of them going again. I actually have a clip coming up of some of the Guppies in one of the other aquariums, and I actually really like two specific males in there. I'll try and point them out as they come up, but they're super frenetic. They're just running all over the place, so it may be hard to point them out, but I'm going to try this. I'm definitely going to use those two males in that tank I just set up. So these guys are doing really well. They're nice and healthy and everything. So here we go. We're going to try and point them out here. Now, yeah, I think it's near the end of the clip where I actually managed to get a close enough look at them so they're isolated. But you can see they're all super excited. There's two males. They look almost identical, and they have shorter fins, which is not a big deal. I'm not a big fan of massive fins on fish anyway. But you can see the energy these fish have, and that's what I really... They're okay. I'm going to try and put a pointer to it. They're just two really lovely males, and they're right near the top in the middle. I'm trying to follow it here, and it's just not cooperating. They're just too excited for food. Like I said, I'll try and get a pointer to show to those as I do the rest of the editing for this. So the bettas aren't doing anything, but I noticed this is a baby. I mentioned it last week. I had a baby white cloud. Since then, I have found 3 more, so there's 4. I've actually doubled my population of white clouds. The other white clouds I found are younger than that one. Believe it or not, that's an older one. These guys are tiny. So I'm feeding them on Paramecia currently, and I'm going to up them to vinegar eels and microworms, and of course just general infusoria, and hopefully we'll get them to grow up quite nicely, and they'll just join the pond once they're bigger than mouse size, really. So I'm looking forward to getting those going. You see I've put a little hornwort in here, and they're doing very well. It's amazing how small these things are. So what I'm going to do is, once these guys have bred a little bit more, I may or may not move them. I haven't decided yet. They're doing extremely well in here, and I'm very happy with them. But I do want to start breeding the zebra danios, which I have more of. So I might think about putting these 4 fish into a smaller aquarium and putting the zebra danios in here, and they'll just go crazy in here. I have a large number of them and a larger number of males, and that way it should actually end up working really, really well, and I don't think I'll have to do anything special about having them breed. I do want to try out that egg collector still, but we'll see how that all goes. Everything seems to keep changing. Now this lily seems to be doing okay. It is mostly submerged, as you can see. A couple leaves are sticking out. I haven't had any issues with it yet, but it's going to be quite some time, I think, before I get any decision on this one way or another. So I meant to show you this last week. This is the hornwort in the, well, used to be, I should say, the box filter that had the Java moss in it. So I put the hornwort in. It seems to be doing really quite well. So I pulled it out, and it is actually growing, I think. He'll be a judge here in a second. I had to take the front off the paludarium, so I wanted to show you the water lily here. And this the peace lily is doing really, really well. So it's going to grow, and I think it's going to look actually really nice as a centerpiece. It's just going to take a little bit more time. So I'm going to try pulling this out one-handed. My apologies. It's going to be a little bit shaky camera work here. But you'll see in a second, it's actually doing really nicely. And the nice thing about this particular filter is it doesn't drain when I pull it out like this, so it doesn't really do too much damage to the plant. So this is pretty much the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Leave comments. Let me know what you think of all this. And also, of course, suggestions for other things. And that's exactly where this came from. This is, for you, Fred, this is going to stay in this for a while longer. I think it's going to take another month at least before this is definitive one way or another. And like I said, it's doing fine right now, and I'm not sure if it's actually doing any extra filtration. That is a difficult thing to measure, of course. You can see one sprig there seems to have lost some needles, but I think that happened when it was initially put in, like right at the very beginning. So again, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.